አደረሰን። ዛሬ ዓድዋን በማስመልከት ልዩ ፕሮግራም እኛቶቻችሁ ይዘንላችሁ መጥተናል። የነገሥታት ትዕይንት፣ ፉከራዎች፣ ቃለመጠይቅ፣ ጥያቄና መልስ እንዲሁም የብሔር ብሔረሰቦች አልባሳት ትዕይንት አዘጋጅተናል። ዛሬ መርሃ ግብሩን በመምራት አብራችሁ የቆየው እኔ ራኬብ ጨቦት፣ በቅድሚያ የሚቀርበው የነገሥታት ትዕይንት ይሆናል። ከሱ በፊት ለልጆች የሚሆን ስለ ነገሥታቱ በእንግሊዝኛ ቋንቋ አጭር ገለጻ አቀርብላችኋለሁ።
Who was Minilik? Minilik II was the emperor of Ethiopia. He was smart, calm, and very strategic. He worked hard to keep Ethiopia independent. When Italy tried to take Ethiopia with an unfair treaty and claim the country as its own, Minilik said no. He began preparing his people to defend their land. He sent messages across Ethiopia, calling on people from many different regions to stand together.
Who was Eteege ጣይቱ? Eteege ጣይቱ was the Empress of Ethiopia and Minilik's wife. She was strong, brave, and very involved in politics and military decisions. ጣይቱ encouraged resistance against Italy and helped organize troops. During the war, she even helped lead soldiers and made sure Ethiopian fighters had access to water and supplies. She was not just the emperor's wife, she was an important leader. So I hope this gave you a brief but clear understanding of who the emperor and empress were during the ዓድዋ. አሁን በመቀጠል ነገሥታቱ ስለሚቀርቡ ታዳሚዎቻችን በድግላቸው እንቀበላቸው።
ነው ያልከው? ለምን ነገ አታደርገውም? ሰማይ ከምድሩ ሳይላቀቅ ከፈለግ ማለና እኔ ሴት ነኝ ጦርነትም አልሻም። በሀገሬ በክብሬ ከመጡ ግን ከቶም አልሸሽ አልፈራም። ሂድ አንቶኖኒ፣ ተሰናድተን እንጠብቅሃለን። የኢትዮጵያን ሕዝብ አታውቀው ነው? ለሀገሩ መሞት ማለት ለአበሻ ጌጡ ነው።
አሁንም አገርን የሚያጠፋ ሃይማኖትን የሚለወጥ እግዚአብሔርን ይወስንን ይባል አልፎም መጥተዋል። አሁንም ግን በእግዚአብሔር ረዳትነት አገሬን አሳልፌ አልሰጠውም። አገሬ ሰው
የስልጣኔ ምንጭ የጥቁር ዘር ኩራት የሚታወጅብሽ ቅዳሴ መላት ለልጆችሽ ብርሃን ለጠላቶችሽ እሳት መሆንሽን አይረሳም የቀመሱት ፋሺስት። ለዘመቻ ዓድዋ የጀግና ጀግንነት ነበር በሃይማኖት ነበር በአንድነት። ለካሊብ ዘመቻ በአገረ ናግራን ምክንያት ነበረ እግዚአብሔርን ማመን። ኢትዮጵያ ሀገራችን በጣም ደስ ይበልሽ የመለኮት ዙፋን መክበሪያ ስለሆንሽ። የስልጣኔ ምንጭ የጥቁር ዘር ኩራት የሚታወጅብሽ ቅዳሴ መላእክት የልጆችሽ ብርሃን ለጠላቶችሽ እሳት ሞንሽም አይረሳም የቀመሰው ፋሽስት። ለዘመቻ ዓድዋ ለጀግና ጀግንነት ኢትዮጵያ ሀገራችን በጣም ደስ ይበልሽ የመለኮት ዙፋን መክበሪያ ስለሆንሽ።
ኢትዮጵያ ሀገራችን በጣም ደስ ይበልሽ የመለኮት ዙፋን መክበሪያ ስለሆንሽ።
ነበር በሃይማኖት ነበር በአንድነት ለካሊብ ዘመቻ በሀገረ ናግራን ምክንያትም ነበረ እግዚአብሔርን ማመን። ኢትዮጵያ ሀገራችን በጣም ደስ ይበልሽ የመለኮት ዙፋን መክበሪያ ስለሆንሽ።
ኢትዮጵያ ሀገራችን በጣም ደስ ይበልሽ የመለኮት ዙፋን መክበሪያ ስለሆንሽ።
የእምነት የታሪክ የባህል ማህደር የክርስቲያን ደሴት ሀገር እግዚአብሔር የጽሑፍ የፊደል የስሌቱ ቁጥር በፀሐይ ምልዋል በጨረቃው ምልዋል ልዩ የሆንሽበት በቀን አቆጣጠር ኢትዮጵያ ሀገራችን በጣም ደስ ይበልሽ የመለኮት ዙፋን መክበሪያው ስለሆንሽ።
ኢትዮጵያ ሀገራችን በጣም ደስ ይበልሽ የመለኮት ዙፋን መክበሪያው ስለሆንሽ።
በአዲሱ ዘመን በአንድ ሆነን አንድ ማህፀን ውስጥ የተመለከተን ባንዲራዎቹ ባንዲራ ሰንደቅ አትጠልለን ሰዎች ለዓለም ፈለጎቻችንን ኢትዮጵያ ሀገራችን በጣም ደስ ይበልሽ የመለኮት ዙፋን መክበሪያው ስለሆንሽ።
ኢትዮጵያ ሀገራችን በጣም ደስ ይበልሽ የመለኮት ዙፋን መክበሪያው ስለሆንሽ።
ከተበተንበት ስደት ከተማ ሸጎላ ጽፈን መጣን ናፍቆትን ሸማ ታጅበን በመዝሙር በያሬድ ውብ ዜማ ተቀበየን ክደን ኢትዮጵያ ማማ። ኢትዮጵያ ሀገራችን በጣም ደስ ይበልሽ የመለኮት ዙፋን መክበሪያው ስለሆንሽ።
ኢትዮጵያ ሀገራችን በጣም ደስ ይበልሽ የመለኮት ዙፋን መክበሪያው ስለሆንሽ።
ውዷ ሀገራችን የቅዱሳን ገዳም የሰብለ መገኛ የተዋሕዶ ሙዚየም ሰንደቅ ዓላማሽን ያላስረከብ ሰማይ የነፃነት እርካብ ሰማያዊ ሰነድ ኢትዮጵያ ሀገራችን በጣም ደስ ይበልሽ የመለኮት ዙፋን መክበሪያው ስለሆንሽ።
ኢትዮጵያ ሀገራችን በጣም ደስ ይበልሽ የመለኮት ዙፋን መክበሪያው ስለሆንሽ።
እኛው እንድናመልክ ከታሪክ ጥያቄ ስራችንን ሰርተን ለፍሬ የሚበቃ በመካከላችን መለያየት ያብቃ። ታሪክ እንድገም እምነት እንድሰፋ እኛ ክርስቲያኖች አለን ብሩህ ተስፋ። ኢትዮጵያ ሀገራችን በጣም ደስ ይበልሽ የመለኮት ዙፋን መክበሪያ ስለሆንሽ።
ኢትዮጵያ ሀገራችን በጣም ደስ ይበልሽ የመለኮት ዙፋን መክበሪያ ስለሆንሽ።
የስልጣኔ ምንጭ የጥቁር ዘር ኩራት የሚታወጅብሽ ቅዳሴ መላእክት ለልጆችሽ ብርሃን ለጠላትሽ እሳት መሆንሽ አይረሳም የቀነሱት ፋሽስት ለዘመቻ አድዋ የጀግና ጀግንነት ነበር በሃይማኖት ነበር በአንድነት ለካሌብ ዘመቻ በሀገረ ናግራም ምክንያት ነበረ እግዚአብሔርን ማመን። ኢትዮጵያ ሀገራችን በጣም ደስ ይበልሽ የመለኮት ዙፋን መክበሪያው ስለሆንሽ።
ኢትዮጵያ ሀገራችን በጣም ደስ ይበልሽ የመለኮት ዙፋን መክበሪያው ስለሆንሽ።
የእምነት የታሪክ የባህል ማህደር የክርስቲያን ደሴት ሀገረ እግዚአብሔር የጽሑፍ የፊደል የስሌቱ ቁጥር የፀሐይ ምህዋር በጨረቃ ምህዋር ልዩ የሆንሽበት በቀን አቆጣጠር ኢትዮጵያ ሀገራችን በጣም ደስ ይበልሽ የመለኮት ዙፋን መክበሪያው ስለሆንሽ።
ኢትዮጵያ ሀገራችን በጣም ደስ ይበልሽ የመለኮት ዙፋን መክበሪያው ስለሆንሽ።
ከተበተንበት ከስደት ከተማ ተጎናጽፈን መጣን የናፍቆትን ሸማ ታጅበን በመዝሙር በያሬድ ውብ ዜማ ተቀበይን ከደጅ ኢትዮጵያ ማማ። ኢትዮጵያ ሀገራችን በጣም ደስ ይበልሽ የመለኮት ዙፋን መክበሪያ ስለሆንሽ።
ኢትዮጵያ ሀገራችን በጣም ደስ ይበልሽ የመለኮት ዙፋን መክበሪያ ስለሆንሽ።
እኛም እንድናመልክ ከታሪክ ጥያቄ ስራችን ሰርተን ለፍሬ እንዲበቃ በመካከላችን መለያየት ያብቃ ታሪክ እንዲደግም እምነት እንዲሰፋ ሀገራችን ከቅዱሳን ገዳም የሰው ዘር መገኛ የተዋሕዶ ሙዚየም ሰንደቅ ዓላማሽን ያላስረከብሽ ለባዕድ የነፃነት ርካብ ሰማያዊ ሰነድ ኢትዮጵያ ሀገራችን በጣም ደስ ይበልሽ የመለኮት ዙፋን መክበሪያው ስለሆንሽ።
ኢትዮጵያ ሀገራችን በጣም ደስ ይበልሽ የመለኮት ዙፋን መክበሪያው ስለሆንሽ።
At the Battle of Ottawa, Emperor Minilik and Empress Taitu helped Ethiopia win in very important ways. Minilik brought people from all over Ethiopia together to work as one big team. He made sure that the army had good weapons and a strong plan. He carefully chose where and how the soldiers would fight. Taitu was brave and strong. She did not want Italy to take over Ethiopia. She helped organize the army and made sure soldiers had waters and supplies. She also encouraged the fighters and gave them confidence. Because of their teamwork and leadership, Ethiopia won the battle and stayed free.
እሺ ለነገስቲቱ እንዲሁም ለሌሎቹ ለትዕይንቱ እግዚአብሔር ይስጥልን። በመቀጠል ስለ አድዋ የሆነ ፕሬዘንቴሽን የቤተ ያሬድ ወጣቶች የአማርኛና የእንግሊዝኛ ቋንቋ ያቀርቡልናል። እነሱን ተከታትለን እንመለሳለን።
የዓድዋ ጦርነት በየካቲት 23 ቀን 1888 ዓ.ም በኢትዮጵያና በጣሊያን መካከል የተካሄደ ውጊያ ሲሆን የአንደኛው የኢትዮጵያ ጣሊያን ጦርነት ክፍል ነው። የተካሄደበትን ምክንያት በውጫሌ ውል ስምምነት አንቀጽ 17 የተጻፈ ነበር። ኢትዮጵያውያን በጣሊያኖች ስር የጥበቃ ግዛት መሆን አያስፈልጋቸውም ብለው አመኑ። ነገር ግን ጣሊያኖች ይህን በኃይል ላይ ሊጫኑባቸው ሞከሩ። ከዚህም ወደ ኢትዮጵያ ድንበር በጣም ቀርበው መጡ።
Events of the battle. During the early morning of the battle, the Italian army led by Oreste Baratieri marched the night of February 29, 1896, and divided into separate brigades. They became lost and spread too far apart in mountainous terrain. Afterwards, the Ethiopian army had surrounded them. The forces of Minilik quickly identified the separated Italian units and moved to attack them one by one. Heavy hiding on the hills then broke out, on hills like Yanimeret and Nantapagirma. Ethiopian troops launched large-scale assaults, overwhelming isolated Italian brigades. The climax of the battle was when one Italian brigade was destroyed early. The brigade under General Albertone was attacked first and nearly wiped out, causing confusion within the Italian ranks. Ethiopian reinforcements had then arrived. Additional Ethiopian forces joined the battle mid-morning, increasing pressure and tightening the encirclement. The end of the climax was when Italian defensive lines collapsed. By late morning, Italian resistance had broke down. Many soldiers were killed, captured, or forced to retreat chaotically. At the end of the battle, the Italian retreat had turned into rout. The retreat became disorganized. Thousands were captured and much equipment and artillery were seized. The battle had ended by early afternoon. By around midday to early afternoon, the Italian army had been decisively defeated, with Ethiopia being crowned victor.
የኢትዮጵያን ጦር በንጉሠ ነገሥት አፄ ምኒልክ እና በእቴጌ ጣይቱ ብጡል ተመርተው ወደ ድሉ የቅዱስ ጊዮርጊስን ታቦት ይዘው ሄደው ድሉን ለማሸነፍ በቅተዋል። በመጨረሻም ንጉሡ አፄ ምኒልክ ከአድዋ ጦርነት ሲመለሱ ለሕዝቡና ለውጭ መንግስታት የምስራች የካቲት 23 የጊዮርጊስ ዕለት ጣሊያንን ድል አድርጌ መጣሁ፣ በጨረቃ ሲገሰግስ አድሮ ሰፈሬ ድረስ መጥቶ ገጠመኝ፣ አምላከ ኃያላን ረድቶኝ ፈጀው፣ ደስ ብሎኛል፣ ደስ ይበል ብለው አወጁ።
Good morning, my name is Loza Yosef and I have with me Madam Matthews, and today we're going to be presenting a quick explanation and brief on the Battle of ዓድዋ in English.
So first we're going to talk about the important people that are important in the Battle of ዓድዋ. So first we are going to talk about Emperor Menelik II. Emperor Menelik was the King of Kings and Emperor of Ethiopia, and he was the one who modernized the military and unified like all the empires in Ethiopia to face as one, to face the Italian threat. The second person we're going to be talking about is Empress Taitu. She was the wife of Emperor Menelik, and she was the military commander who founded Addis Ababa and engineered the water blockade that won the siege of Mecca. Next, we're going to be talking about Ras Makonnen. He was the governor of Harar and a master of international relations who led the initial vanguard with bravery and loyalty. Then we talk about Ras Adda. He was a strategist from humble roots who became one of Africa's most feared and effective military commanders. Then we're going to be talking about all of the women in Ethiopia. They were really important because they managed all of the logistics, they gathered a lot of intelligence, and they actually provided medical care on the actual battleground, the front lines. And lastly, we're going to be talking about the priests and the deacons. They had a major role in the Battle of ዓድዋ and its victory because they carried the tabots. They carried ቅዱስ ጊዮርጊስ's tabot, and they ensured that the soldiers fought with not only courage but also faith in God.
All right, next we're going to talk about how the Battle of ዓድዋ proceeded. So first so the Italians proposed a treaty to the Ethiopians, to Ethiopia, and the treaty basically said, for the Italians, it said that all Ethiopians had to get permission from Italy to have any relations with other foreign countries. But on the Ethiopian side, it said that they could or should, and that again caused a conflict. In February 1993, Menelik II officially notified European powers that Ethiopia will not be signing the treaty and will not be partaking in the treaty's notes. And between 1890 and 1895, Menelik utilized the 4 million lire, which is around $5 million today, that the Italians gave the Ethiopians, and bought multiple different modern pistols and issued መስከረም 7 or September 17. The decree was absolute. Menelik said that the battle would begin and all Ethiopians who can fight will fight, and those who can't will try their best and help. As Maha stated, there were also deacons and priests, Khanat, who helped by bringing the tablet of Kadus Giorgis and performing Kadasi at each city that they went. In 1896, Empress Daitu seized the water source near Mekelle, which was the only water source that the Italians had. By seizing this water source, the Italians were forced to surrender within 2 weeks. On March 1st, the Battle of ዓድዋ began. This day was also the feast of Kadus Giorgis, also known as Katit Hayasost. The Ethiopian forces trapped around 17,000 troops, and the Italians were outnumbered because we had around 100,000 troops. Eventually, in 1896, in October, the Italians were forced to recognize Ethiopia's full independence and gave the Ethiopians 10 million lira, or 12 million US dollars today.
Okay, so next we're going to be talking about the spiritual significance. As Samuel 1, 17 verse 47 says, the battle is the Lord's. So many people, even now, obviously, we believe that the victory of ዓድዋ was made possible by God's intervention. So now you might ask, okay, but how did the Ethiopian Orthodox Church contribute? The first way was before the battle, the king encouraged the whole country, everyone, to pray, fast, and repent because he believed and he had faith that the victory would come from God. As Psalms 68 verse 31 says, Ethiopia shall stretch forth her hands unto God. The second one is, we talked about it before, that the priests and deacons brought the tablet of St. George to the battlefield, and with the help of God and the tablet of St. George, Ethiopia won the war by killing over 7,000 Italian soldiers and capturing 3,000 prisoners. And after this, St. Minilik, he built the famous church that we know as Kadus Giorgis in Addis Ababa. Now this teaches us that with God, all things are possible, and that's found in Matthew 19:26. Next is this historical significance. So one, it's ዓድዋ, the victory of ዓድዋ inspired African independence movements because Ethiopia won and against Italy, one of the stronger European countries. This encouraged other African nations to fight for their independence throughout the 20th century. The second historical significance is that it strengthened Ethiopian identity. Now, before ዓድዋ, Ethiopia was made up of different diverse ethnic groups and different empires. But until we tried to attack and invade Ethiopia, they all came together under Emperor Minilik II. And this showed the whole world that Ethiopians could stand together as one community and country, even though there were different regions. The third one was it became a symbol of dignity and unity. In the late 19th century, European powers were colonizing Africa piece by piece, but many Europeans claimed Africans were incapable of governing or defending themselves. But then when Ethiopia won against Italy, I said before, those ideas were proven wrong.
Alright, next I'm going to briefly talk about Western lies. So, when the Italians went back home defeated, they began to spread multiple different lies. For example, one of them was that Emperor Menelik wasn't actually in charge of all of the 100,000 troops, and that it was in fact the Russians who were seen at the battlefield. This is not true. Why? Because there are multiple recorded different generals or rases, as she said, like Ras Makonnen or Ras Haruna, who were seen commanding the troops. Additionally, the Russians who were there were in camp were mostly medical staff, and a few were soldiers. Another lie is that the Ethiopians weren't black or African. This is, again, very inaccurate because where is Ethiopia located? Africa. Exactly. So this completely poses the statement. Also, the La Tribuna, that newspaper is found in Italy. That is the newspaper that spreads so many lies that most people believe, and some textbooks have recorded as facts did. One more lie that Italy spread is that Italy claimed they lost their maps, and that caused them to scatter. This is not true because we actually had a spy called Basha Awalon, and lots of other Tigrayan spies who gave the Italians false landmarks. This allowed us to, by giving them false information, telling them that we didn't have that many troops, they gave them false hope and false landmarks, eventually leading us to victory. So, real quick, okay, so we have, who here knows true or false? True or false game. This is basically true or false game. We're going to give you statements and you're going to basically say, guess if it's true or false. First one, the Ethiopian army fought mostly with spears and bows. True or false? It's false. Yes, okay. Menelik II was a modernization genius. By 1896, he had imported over 100,000 modern rifles and several Hotchkiss and artillery pieces from foreign countries. That's the explanation.
Okay. The second question would be Empress I, Empress I, who personally led a battle to cut off the Italian water supply. Wow, you guys are smart. Okay, so during the siege of Mekne, I too identified the Benjoa stream as the Italians' only water source. She led her own guard to seize it, forcing the Italians to surrender within 2 weeks. That's cool.
Alright, next question. European countries claim that the Ethiopians were actually white people. European country claims that the Ethiopians were white. Yes. Is the statement true? Are Ethiopians white people? Okay, just want to make sure. Okay.
Okay. The next question will be, Italy had to pay Ethiopia money after the war ended.
True.
How much? 12 million.
true. And in now dollars, it would be 12 million that Italy had to pay Ethiopia.
Okay, true or false? The battle began on a day dedicated to a saint. The battle began on a day dedicated to a saint. Who knows the saint? Everybody is St. George or Goodness.
Now, the last one. The Ethiopian army was led by Russian generals. False? Okay, who said true? No. It's false. Russia actually provided some weapons and medical supplies, but they didn't need the equipment.
What is the next thing?
Alright, thank you all so much for listening. I hope you all were able to take something away from this quick presentation. One really quick statement I wanted to give to everyone is don't forget your history. Multiple people will try to change it, especially, for example, in school, if they teach you wrong, now you know the correct way. It's been taught. Alright, thank you.
አንድ ጥያቄ እጠይቃለሁ እና ጥያቄውን በሙሉ መመለስ አለባችሁ። አንድ ዋና ነጥብ ካጣችሁ ግማሽ ነጥብ ብቻ ነው የሚሰጣችሁ። የጠየቀውን ቡድን መመለስ ካልቻሉ ሌሎች ቡድኖች ግማሽ ወይም ሙሉ ነጥብ ሊሰጡ ይችላሉ። አሁን ከቤተ እግዚአብሔር ጀምራለሁ። ከዛ በኋላ ቤተ ዳዊት እጠይቃለሁ እና መጨረሻ ቤተ ያዕቆብ። ለቤተ እግዚአብሔር የዓድዋ ድል ከዘመን ዘመን የተሸጋገረ እስካሁን ላለው ኢትዮጵያዊ ትውልድ ያተረፈው መልካም ነገር ምንድን ነው? ጥቂቶቹን ደርሳችሁ መልሱ።
ነፃነትና ድል አድራጊነትን አውርቶታል። ሌላ ደግሞ ባህልን፣ ታሪክን እና ሃይማኖትን አስተርፏል። ለጥቁር አፍሪካኖች ደግሞ የነፃነት ምስል ነው።
ለቤተ ዳዊት ሁለተኛው በመጨረሻም ንጉሡ አፄ ሚኒሊክ ከዓድዋ ጦርነት ሲመልሱ ለሕዝቡና ለውጭ መንግስታት ምን ብለው የምስራች አበሰሩ? በእንግሊዝኛም Finally, when Emperor Minilik returned from the Battle of Adwa, what good news did he announce to the people and the foreign governments?
He said, good news, I have come to say on your county classes on St. George's that we have defeated the Italians. And then he said that God had saved us, like he was the reason why we defeated them. And then he said, I'm happy and you should be happy.
የዓድዋ ድል ልዩ ነው። የዓድዋ ድልን ልዩ የሚያደርገው ምንድን ነው? በእንግሊዝኛም The victory of Adwa is unique. What makes the Adwa victory unique? የዓድዋ ድል ልዩ ነው። የዓድዋ ድልን ልዩ የሚያደርገው ምንድን ነው?
አድዋ ድል ልዩ የሚያደርጋት ብዙ ነገር ነው። ከነዚህም ውስጥ ደግሞ ሁለቱ አንደኛ እኛ የመጀመሪያ የአፍሪካ ምንድን ነው ሀገር ነፃ ምንድን ነው በቀኝ ግዛት ሳንገዛ የነበርነው የመጀመሪያ ሀገር እኛ ነን። አንደኛ። ሁለተኛ ደግሞ እኛም ብቻ ሳይሆን ሌሎቹም የመላው ጥቁር አፍሪካ ጥቁር አፍሪካ ሀገራት እኛ አምሳያ አርአያ አድርገው አይተውን ለራሳቸው ድል እንዲበሉ ነፃነታቸው እንዲያገኙ
የመጀመሪያ ጥያቄ የሚሆነው የዓድዋ ጦርነት ምክንያት ምን ነበር?
የውጫሌ ውል ስምምነት።
የውጫሌ ውል ስምምነት አንቀጽ 17 ምንድን ነው?
ከጣሊያንና ከኢትዮጵያ ጋር የነበረ ስምምነት ነበር።
እሺ። የዓድዋ ጦርነት በኢጣሊያና በኢትዮጵያ መካከል የነበረ ጦርነት ነው። የዓድዋ ጦርነት ምክንያት በኢጣሊያ ኢትዮጵያ ለመግዛት ስለፈለገች ጦርነቱ ተፈጸመ። በውጫሌ ውል አንቀጽ 17 ላይ በትርጉም ምክንያት ግጭት ስለነበረ በጦርነት
The cause of the Great Battle of Ottawa was because of the Treaty of Italy signed by both Ethiopia and Italy. The Amharic version says that Article 17 of the Amharic version says that Ethiopia could use the Italian government to interact with other nations only if needed, but the Italian version says that Ethiopia was obliged and they must use the Italian government to interact with other nations. So when King Benedict II, when he asked the Italians if the treaty could be revoked, they say no, and we will, military force and we're going to bring it to you. So this led to the first war of Ottawa.
Thank you. Okay, so the second question goes to Nabiyu. በዓድዋ ጦርነት የቤተክርስቲያን አስተዋጽኦ ምንድን ነው?
መንፈሳዊ ብርታትን በመስጠት እና የቅዱስ ጊዮርጊስን ታቦት በማዞር።
ቤተክርስቲያን በዓድዋ ጦርነት ውስጥ ትልቅ አስተዋጽኦ ነበራት። በህዝቡን አንድ በማድረግ ወታደሮቹን በእግዚአብሔር ኃይል ብርታት ጦርነቱን እንዲያሸንፉ በመስጠት እና ካህናትና ዲያቆናቱም በዓድዋ ጦርነት ላይ ሆነው ታቦተ ጊዮርጊስን ተሸክመው ወደ ዓድዋ ጦርነት እንዲያሸንፉ ረድተዋል።
The Ethiopian Orthodox Tewahedo Church played a significant role in the winning of Ottawa, and when they heard Minini's speech about saying whoever could fight would fight and whoever couldn't fight, to keep him, our country, and our warriors in our prayers, our church took a responsibility. So on March 1st, 1896, our church came with the covenant of Our Lady St. Mary and St. George, and they served our country by giving and providing our warriors spiritual comfort and guidance.
Okay, so last question. So, ዲያቆን ነቢዩ አንተ ዛሬ አድዋን በዓል ስታከብር ምን ይሰማሃል?
በአባቶች ጀግንነት በጣም ብዙ ኩራትና ደስታ ይሰማኛል።
በዓድዋ ጦርነት ኩራት ይሰማኛል። በውጊያና በጦር ብቻ ሳይሆን በአንድነት በእግዚአብሔር ኃይል አሸንፈዋል አባቶቻችን። ከዚህም ጦርነት ብዙ መማር የምንችለው ነገር አለ። በውጫሌ ውል ላይ እንዴት እንዳልተስማሙና እኛም በብዙ ነገሮች ላይ በደንብ አይተን በደንብ ተረድተን ስምምነት ማድረግ እንዳለብን መማር እንችላለን።
I feel very proud and happy about the Ottawa War, not only because we won the war,
but because we protected our identities and our religion, we became like a beacon to the other countries to do the same, fight for their freedom. And we proved that we have a connection with God in many ways, especially in our time of need, through saints like Our Lady St. Mary and St. George.
የብሔር ብሔረሰብን ልብስ ለብሰው አንድነታችንን ያሳዩናል። የጎንደር፣ የወሎ፣ የደቡብ ብሔር ብሔረሰቦች፣ የኦሮሚያ፣ የሀረር እንዲሁም የሌሎች የኢትዮጵያ ብሔር ብሔረሰቦችን የወከሉ ልጆቻችን ያሳዩናል። ወደ መድረኩ እንዲቀርቡ ጋብዛለሁ። የመጀመሪያው የሚያሳዩን የደቡብ ብሔረሰቦች ናቸው። እሱ በመቀጠል ደግሞ የጎንደር፣ ከዛም የጎንደር፣ እሺ የጉራጌ፣ እሺ ተመለሱ። የራያ አለባበስ ወይም የወሎ፣ እሺ የዶርዜ አለባበስ፣ በአጭሩ ላቀረቡልን ልጆች እግዚአብሔር ይስጥልን። እስከ መጨረሻው ስለተሳተፉት እግዚአብሔር ይስጥልን። የአባቶቻችን ጋር እግዚአብሔር
To everyone, thank you to everyone who has participated and attended our event. We will now move on to the end of our program.
በቃ